A round of hand clap for making the time and the space to come out and be a part of this conversation. Everyone's time is valuable, no matter what you have going on. Maybe you had come from work, come from school, or you're retired. Your time is valuable. And we want to tell you thank you for being here with us today. We're going to take a moment, and if everyone could please bow your heads for a word of prayer. Dear Lord, we thank you for this day. We give you praise, we give you glory, we give you honor. We pray, God, for this meeting, first and foremost, that you would keep us safe. We pray, Lord God, for unity, for understanding, for compassion, for respect. And we always pray that you would allow your will to be done in all things. In your Son's name we pray. Amen. Amen. Okay, I'm going to read for you all a little bit. Miss Malika Wells, who is the president of Stonecrest Citizens Coalition, is going to give you more about the history of SCC. But I'm going to go ahead and read our mission and our vision for SCC. Okay, our vision is one Stonecrest under the concept of Ujima, collective work and responsibility, where the city government cooperates with its citizens and establish and maintain a government that is ethical, transparent, and accountable, and where the citizens of Stonecrest are engaged collectively to improve our quality of life as expressed in the city's pillars of live, work, play, shop, educate, and worship. Our mission to improve the quality of life and prosperity for Stonecrest residents, business owners, and other stakeholders through education, advocacy, and action. Some of our values include love, kindness, faith, family, human dignity, collaboration, advocacy, and activism, data-driven practices, accountability, community, honesty and ethics, and transparency. So that was the mission and vision statements for the Stonecrest Citizens Coalition. Okay, now we will have just a few announcements before I move on. Just want to make sure everyone has signed in. We do have healthy snacks, fruits, and water. Healthy city, healthy community, healthy mind. No chicken or anything like that today. And also the bathrooms to my left and to my right behind me, men and women. And then also we want to make sure that we get out of here in a respectable amount of time. I know that we may want to mix and mingle at the end, but mix and mingle towards the door. I will ask at the end if anyone's still here, if you can kind of help us get the place back in order. We would greatly appreciate that. Again, thank you, Ms. Sybil and Rockland United Methodist Church for allowing us to utilize this space. So we definitely want to be respectful of someone else's house, right? Yes. All right, now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to call up our president, Ms. Malika Wells.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate that, Dana. Oh, thank you. I receive it. Thank you so much, Dana. I really appreciate that. I'm going to do my best to speak clearly and give you a little bit of history, but I don't want to be before you too long. I have some things that I want to read to you. So the Stonecrest Citizens Coalition was started in 2018, which was right after the inception of the city of Stonecrest. So when my husband, my family, and I, we bought our home, it was in 2017, right before the residents of Stonecrest took a vote to decide to become, or the residents of Lithonia at that time, took a vote to decide to become Stonecrest. So we were kind of engrafted into the city at the beginning of that process, and it's been an extraordinary process and very educational. But it was started in 2018 by a group of concerned citizens who felt moved to be able to provide for the city a service of accountability to the city and its residents, a service of accountability, knowing that a new city, a fledgling city, would really benefit from active and engaged residents, right, to guide this process of fulfilling what it said it wanted to do, which was become a world-class city. So we really honor the founding members of the Stonecrest Citizens Coalition and thankful to them for putting down the foundation of what we have today. So in the ensuing years, we've been active in our communities in voter outreach and activation, making sure that we show up and inform residents about when they should be voting and what are the ways and what are the opportunities for them to engage with that. Also opportunities for community cleanups, we hosted that and also had a small grant from the United Way, I believe, to get that done. We've also hosted several candidate forums for local elections in the city of Stonecrest, and we have no intention of stopping. We'll continue to be active, engaged, and present in our community, working for the good of the community. And Dana already told you about our mission and vision. So I want to read a couple things for you and then get out of your way. One thing I want to read is a very powerful poem because that's going to set the tone for why we're here. Okay? The poem is going to set the tone for why we're here. After that, I'm going to read for you briefly Mayor Pro Tem's bio. So we'll have an introduction to our guest for this evening. And so glad that he came. And we'll have some acknowledgments at that time. And then I'm going to set up for you kind of what we envision for this space to be for us today. And in that setting up for what we envision this space to be, you're going to learn a little bit more about the Stonecrest Citizens Coalition and what we're all about, okay? So here's the poem. It's called For My People by Margaret Walsh. For my people, everywhere, singing their slave songs repeatedly, their dirges and their ditties and their blues and jubilees, praying their prayers nightly to an unknown God, bending their knees humbly to an unseen power. For my people, lending their strength to the years, to the gone years, and the now years, and the maybe years, washing, ironing, cooking, scrubbing, sewing, mending, hoeing, plowing, digging, planting, pruning, patching, dragging along, never gaining, never reaping, never knowing, and never understanding. For my playmates in the clay and dust and sand of Alabama, backyards playing, baptizing and preaching, and doctor and jail and soldier and school and mama and cooking and playhouse and concert and store and hair and Miss Chumby and Cumberland. For the cramped, bewildered years we went to school to learn to know the reasons why and the answers to and the people who and the places where and the days when, in the memory of the bitter hours when we discovered we were black and poor and small and different and nobody cared and nobody wondered and nobody understood. For the boys and girls who grew in spite of these things to be man and woman, to laugh and dance and sing and play and drink their wine and religion and success, to marry their playmates and bear children and then die of consumption and anemia and lynching. For my people, thronging 47th Street in Chicago and Lenox Avenue in New York and Rampart Street in New Orleans, long in taverns and other people's pockets and needing bread and shoes and milk and land and money and something all our own. For my people, walking blindly, spreading joy, losing time, being lazy, sleeping when hungry, shouting when burdened, drinking when hopeless, tied and shackled and tangled among ourselves by the unseen creatures who tower over us omnisciently and laugh. For my people, blundering and groping and floundering in the dark of churches and schools and clubs and societies, associations and councils and committees and conventions, distressed and disturbed and deceived and devoured by money-hungering, glory-craving leeches, preyed on by facile force of state and fad and novelty by false prophet and holy believer. For my people, standing, staring, trying to fashion a better way from confusion, from hypocrisy and misunderstanding, trying to fashion a world that will hold all the people, all the faces, all the Adams and Eves and their countless generations. Let a new earth rise. Let another world be born. Let a bloody peace be written in the sky. Let a second generation full of courage issue forth. Let a people loving freedom come to growth. Let a beauty full of healing and a strength of final clenching be the pulsing in our spirits and our blood. Let the martial songs be written. Let the dirges disappear. Let a race of men now rise and take control. For my people. All right? You're welcome. So that sets the tone for what we're here about today. I'm going to introduce you to our speaker. Mr. George Turner, Jr. is a retired MARTA General Superintendent, District 4 Councilperson, and Mayor Pro Tem as of 2018. During the past 15 years, Mr. Turner has served on several boards, commissions, associations, coalitions, alliances, and other volunteer groups in an effort to improve the quality of life of the residents of South DeKalb. George Turner has lived in the area of Stonecrest District 4 for over 25 years and previously served as president of the DeKalb County District 5 Community Council. His volunteer service of 8 years with the Georgia General Assembly has given him insight into the operation of state and federal government. He has served on the board of Arabia Mountain National Heritage Area and also as president of the Hunters Run 2 Homeowners Association. Mr. Turner is a native of Georgia, earned a Bachelor of Arts degree from Georgia State University with further study at the University of Wisconsin. He also completed technical management training with the Chicago Transit Authority Institute. He's married, the father of 2 children, and a happy grandfather as well, which he shared with me on occasion when we had coffee at Panera. So thank you again for being here with us this evening. I want to also acknowledge that with us tonight is Councilwoman Tammy Grimes, who is the District 5 Councilwoman. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. I want to also acknowledge that with us tonight is Ms. Renee Kale, who is the President of Chase. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Appreciate you. And so many others are with us tonight. If I have overlooked anyone who was like, why didn't she call me out? And please charge it to my head and not my heart. And I will value and have much gratitude for that. So we do things a little bit differently in Stonecrest Citizens Coalition, and that's what I wanted to talk to you about tonight. So you see us sitting here, you see this semicircle because we're a gathering of people, right? We're a gathering of equals when we come into this space together. So what we're here to do tonight is to provide an opportunity for a community to have a two-way conversation, a two-way dialogue with your elected official who has joined us on tonight, right? So you have pen, you have paper. We ask that if you have questions, if you came with questions, you write them down. If you hold up your card, note card, we'll have someone come pick it up and make sure that we give it to our Vice President, Mr. Andrew Wells, who will be fielding all the questions, reading all the questions. I'll be here to jump in ever so often in the conversation, but primarily it will be Andrew who is reading the questions, and Mr. Turner who will respond and have dialogue with us as we're here together. So my expectation as we're having this conversation is for us to be respectful of one another, and that means if you have a question, please don't shout it out. If you are feeling especially impassioned about what you want to share, please raise your hand so we know. But that's the kind of environment, conversation that we want to have with one another, mindful and respectful of each of us, right? One of our values is human dignity. Does anyone have any questions about what to expect this evening? If there are no questions, then we will get to it. Andrew?
All right, thank you. Good for being with us. So we have some questions prepared, but please, as they come to you, as Malika mentioned, please write them down, get them to me. I just ask if they're legible. Otherwise, I'm not responsible for what comes out of my mouth, right? So just be mindful of that, please. So Mayor Pro Tem Turner, one of the things that is interesting is that how most of the time when people relate to you, they're relating to you as who you are within the council for the whole body of Stonecrest. But we came to know you as Councilman Turner from District 4. My wife and I, as you know, reside in District 4. So a question I want to ask you is looking specifically at District 4. Let me find it here. Respond to this prompt. District 4 needs blank. And the process to achieving it is blank. So let me repeat that. District 4 needs blank. And the process to achieving that is blank.
Let me say good evening. And you have totally skipped my monologue. I envisioned being in the sanctuary with the pulpit and being able to address the congregation. And the note said, tell a joke.
You want to tell the joke? Sure.
And there was a story of the widow woman who had a little son who was about 6 years old, and she needed some assistance from the minister of the church whom she had invited to come by her house later on in the day. And she decided that she needed to prep her son. She said, now Johnny, this is a very important meeting. So that when the preacher gets here, he's going to ask you some questions. And you just give the answer and you get out of the way. He's going to ask you, what's your name? You just say, my name is Johnny. He's going to ask, how old are you? Tell him you're 6 years old. And he's going to ask you, what happened to little boys when they are bad? You just tell them they go to hell. And, oh, one other thing, Johnny. Please don't talk so much. I got it, Mom. So sure enough, when the preacher gets there, step out of his big Cadillac Coupe de Ville and addresses little Johnny, he said, young fella, what's your name? So my name is Johnny, I'm 6 years old, go to hell and go talk to me. Let me assure you, I do not intend to talk too much. I'm going to do my best to answer your questions, and if I cannot, I will jot them down with the help of my assistant. That's why she got it.
That's why I'm here.
So we can try to find some answers and get back to you with those answers. But I've been involved in politics probably longer than half of you been born. And I worked with the Maynard Jackson campaign during the first election. Very small. I was chasing some young lady who was working. And that put me in the campaign. So I got my taste of politics with the Maynard Jackson era. And even before then, I've been voting since I was about 14 years old. How so? My dad worked with the electors, the candidates in my hometown, and if some of the elders who had just registered to vote in the mid-60s needed someone in the booth with them to help read the ballots and whatnot, I was selected to do that with several people. So when you say vote early and vote often, I had a chance to help several people vote when I was as a teenager. So I've been involved in the process. And it's been a great ride. And in terms of this community, on the Bible, it says 25 years, actually it's about 38 years that I've been in this area. And part of that has been when you had the attempt of the truck stop to come on Panola and I-20, got involved in that process. And people said, you can't stop the truck stop there. We stopped them, but the truck stop there. The corner of Salem and Evans Mill, when there was the first movement of dirt on that corner about 15 years ago, we stopped that movement. And we formed what was called the Salem Evans Mill Coalition. And it was a group like this. And when we had controversial issues, the rooms were packed. 90 to 100 people would attend. And that was great. And as soon as the issue died down, 5 or 6 people. But we didn't stop, we still kept the coalition alive, and we tried to keep the community informed as to what was going on, and tried to address some shoddy development as it would come towards our area, to try to protect the neighborhood from things that they did not want to see happen. And those are some of the things that we've been working on over the years. And someone had the crazy idea to form a city in the Stonecrest, Greater Lithonia area. And I said, I don't mind, it can't be done, this is not going to work. And the more I looked at it, I was turned and said, well, you know, maybe we can make this work. If we get together, work together, it's going to take some sacrifices, but we can determine our own destiny. Amidst a lot of criticism, a lot of challenges, we were able to get it passed and form a city with 3 services. Those 3 services, as you know, would be Parks and Recreation, Code Enforcement, and what's the other one? Planning and zoning. So with those 3 services, we would start, and we will be measured by how well we do those 3 services before we elevate to the next level. And that's what we're looking at. You mentioned that you were in Lithonia. Only 2,000 people live in Lithonia.
Oh, no, I said when we originally
I know.
came, when we first
That's
bought
what
the
I'm
house.
saying. A lot of people think that because we have a Lithonia address,
Right.
because they lived in Lithonia. In fact, there was an accident in front of my house when I first moved out in the area, and someone called the police, and they never showed up. Who did you call? They called the Lithonia police. We were in unincorporated DeKalb, but because on the mail it says Lithonia, there was some confusion. So that had to be fixed, and it still is not totally clear. But understand that the city of Lithonia is only 1 square mile and has less than 2,000 people living therein. But we now have a city, and as you mentioned, I was fortunate enough to be elected council person for District 4. And I never really regarded us as being segmented. I try my best to look at the city as a whole. And I know that I'm accountable for the people in District 4. We used to have our regular meetings, district meetings, to talk about issues that were supposedly specific to the district, but they were concerns that fit all of Stonecrest. So I'm going to ask you to go back and ask the question again. I'll do my best to address them as it relates to District 4, but I'm warning you is that I look at the city as a whole and not separate districts.
So then I will do this in the spirit of that. We had 2 questions exactly identical. The first one said District 4, the second one said Stonecrest. So I will ask again, instead substitute District 4 for Stonecrest and say Stonecrest needs blank. And the path to get there is blank.
District 4, City of Stonecrest, they need, we need a culture change. There's a culture, I believe, that drives an expectation that we shall be like others on the north side of town, midtown, wherever. But understand that this area is unique. It is. And you cannot apply the exact same expectations to Stonecrest as you apply to Dunwoody or Brookhaven or downtown Decatur. Once I think citizens realize their uniqueness and their ability or their responsibility to lay a foundation that magnifies that uniqueness and makes Stonecrest a place that people want to come to because they can find things here and they can find no place else. So I think if we look at a shift in culture and a focus on us and not trying to be like Mike, I think we can build what we can be proud of. And as long as we can build something that we can be proud of, what other people think really doesn't matter. So stop measuring yourself by what others have and measure yourself by who you are and what you can be. So with that culture, a shift. And I think where it can happen. It really can. So we are strong enough to do it. We are. And the poetry, and I love poetry as well. And one of my favorite poems is Invictus, Unconquered. And we can do it.
As a follow-up to that, something that I've realized is that Stonecrest is changing. There are different generations that are in Stonecrest now. To have that development of identity, that we might be able to infuse that sense of identity into our master plans and park plans, stuff like that. So how can the city help pull us together for that?
We're young, we're very young. And I think appreciating how young we are as a city, knowing that we have now laid a foundation, that the city has its act together. I remember previous council person wanted us to put together a youth coalition and bring in the youth and kind of give them training on how the government works and whatnot. I said, before we can do that, we need to get the government working. We can't show someone how well we're working if we're not working well, and make them mentee when we have established ourselves. So again, it's going to take a lot of time and patience for us to lay that foundation, but I can see it coming together. I can see mistakes that have been made. I can see corrections that have been made. And I think once that foundation is solid, and people are watching, that's for sure. Yes. People are watching, and they're watching to see our mistakes. And I think at some point in time, when we start watching to see our triumph, it will be the shift, will be the change. And triumphs are coming. They are. I can see where we have grown tremendous, putting things in place. And it takes time for you to see the results of what's in place. Some of us dream it, but we can never achieve it. Some of us lay the dream out, or we share the vision, but others will ultimately achieve. But you've got to be able to share that vision. I think I hear you asking that about the vision of what Stonecrest can be and how do we get it to the point that others will want to emulate what we're doing, and that we can impress the new generation that's coming along as to their wanting to participate in the process, because they see where it's going and they know it's a good place. I did not necessarily disagree with the idea of the youth council. I just thought it was a little bit premature. And I think the time is coming closer that we do need to put those youth councils in place, because we have something that we can tell them that we feel comfortable that can really work.
Thank you. So speaking of people knowing that this is a good place, we see evidence of that all the time. You know, you think you know everybody who walks in Publix, and then you go in Publix, and then who's that? And so we see that changing. So one of the questions that we have here is that as communities are being built, what is being done to project the infrastructure to support the added traffic flow? I experienced that today going to pick up something for this event on Nola Road, and it was, I don't know, maybe 3:30 or so, but I could see that there was congestion. There was enough to impact my travel there. So as we figure things out, get things together, things start to grow, how are we going to move people around?
Welcome to the big city. And I think that is the question we have to answer. Do you want to live in rural DeKalb, or do you want to live in suburban DeKalb, or do you want to live in a congested city? My wife threatened me a few years ago about moving. She wanted to move to Dunwoody. She said, I want to go out to North Spring or Dunwoody or somewhere. They have everything. I said, yeah, they have all the shops and everything, and they got all the traffic that comes along with it. Why can't we have that here? Well, you can. More rooftops will spell more businesses, which is going to spell more traffic. What's the plan to deal with it? You can go down to the state capitol right now and ask the legislators who have been grappling with the question for probably the last 50 years, and they still haven't come up with an answer. They build more highways, and before they can finish building it, it's already obsolete. We talk about public transit. Public transit will only get you so much, but it can help. What can we do? We're working with DOT, trying to understand what's being planned and share that with you, but it's not what we're doing. Panola Road, there was a plan to expand Panola Road. That has been scaled back, where they're gonna make some changes on Panola Road to make the movement on Panola Road less congested, but it still won't change the fact that if you grow, as we grow, traffic is going to grow, congestion is going to grow. So what do you want? You want this to stay where it is right now? And traffic, comparatively speaking, is not that bad.
Right.
If my wife had taken me up to Dunwoody or Sandy Springs or somewhere, it's not that bad. Which means no more development. All the other shops you want to see around the mall, they stop all of that. You know, and the people who want to move to the area say, too bad, we are full and we're not taking any more residential developments. Then we freeze ourselves in time. That's the only way to stop that. But by becoming an incorporated city, we have said that we want some of the amenities that you do have on other sides of the county. Maybe not to the extent that you find in the heart of Buckhead or someplace, but we want some of it. So how do you control it? We have zoning in place, particularly in the Arabian Mountain Heritage area, which will limit how much residential development can come in. That's a good thing if you're trying to keep down some of the traffic. And that's a bad thing if you want all of the other amenities that come along with it, because they rely on numbers. They rely on congestion. The reason you get what you get in the other side of town is because they have massive residential developments where you have just tons of people to support those shops and developments. And we don't. You want it? That's a question you have to ask. Some people say, no way. I like it like it is, don't change a thing. Others say, well, we want this, we want that, this. That only comes with the numbers. You gotta have the numbers. So those are the things you have to get to your council. Do you wanna grow, or do you wanna stay like you are? You wanna be a thriving, bustling city with all the amenities? There's a cost for that, and that is congestion. Now, can we build, and we, the city, can't build roads, we can't build roads. We have to rely on DOT. DOT goes by projection, and they've looked out 5, 10, 20 years and projected what's gonna happen in this area. And it's not just here, it's a matter of what you have going on down in Morgan County, with the coming of the electric truck plant. You look at what's going on in Henry County, a lot of the traffic is in Oklahoma, coming out of Henry, Rockdale, and other places. They come through Stonecrest to go to other places. And you capitalize on that. They would say, if you lived here, you wouldn't have to go through here.
Right, this is exciting. Okay, thank you so much. And thank you all. Thank you for writing legend. Next question up for you. And this dovetails with what we're talking about. What are the city's plans to address public safety?
We're gonna tighten up our intergovernmental agreement with DeKalb County. Right now, we have no immediate plans to take on public safety. We have an intergovernmental agreement with DeKalb County. And what it says is that they will provide the same level of service to us that they provide to the rest of unincorporated DeKalb. Well, the budget is based on a certain level of service and a certain number of police officers for DeKalb County. And if DeKalb County does not have those officers in place, the funding for that still stays in their budget. But they calculated a certain number of officers for us, and we don't get those officers. What happens to the funding that was in the equation for us? Those are things that we're trying to address with DeKalb County right now, because if we're only getting half of the public safety support that we should be budgeted for, then the difference in that funding, we should be able to realize, and if we can work out a deal to get private security in some areas, that should be available to us. So those are things that are being broached right now with DeKalb County about the intergovernmental agreement we have for public safety. What level should we have? And how much of the funding that's coming out of the citizens of the Stonecrest area is actually being used to supply us? And if it's not 100%, what happened with my change? We should get our change and either keep it in the general fund or use it to augment public safety. And it's not just with public safety, but it's also in other areas for which we have the agreement that they will supply us at the same level the rest of the county should be, well, the rest of unincorporated DeKalb should be getting. Where's the rest of the fund? So it takes someone to really analyze where we are and make the case for us going to get what we deserve.
At this, let me say this real quick. At this point, do we know what we need?
Right before you say that, well,
Yeah.
you've already said that. Right before you respond, Mayor Pro Tem, I just want to say, so, a couple things. I'm going to ask that we be mindful of the time and be mindful of the folks who have come in, and thank you so much, Councilwoman Alecia Washington, for joining us this evening. I appreciate that. So being mindful of the time, being mindful also that some folks who handed in their questions may have follow-up questions, may want to have a dialogue, and that's what we're here for. So I want to make sure that we can kind of keep our responses around 2 minutes, just so we can get that. I look forward to having more time and a different on a different day, a different occasion for this again, because I see it's needed. But if we can do that, Andrew, and Mayor Pro Tem, I appreciate that. Just want to make sure folks have an opportunity to engage.
Okay. All right, so with that said,
The person who wrote that question, if you had something that you wanted to, if there was something that Mayor Pro Tem said, you want to, pull it out there, pull out a thread, now's the time.
yeah,
Do we know what level of law enforcement support we're getting from the CAB?
Those are the questions that we have posed to our folks to get answers from the CAB County. Because is that intergovernmental agreement? Well, it's too general, it needs specifics. At the same level, it doesn't tell me how many. We're supposed to be getting 90 police officers, and we're only getting 45?
It's 1.2 per 1,000.
That's a formula. So, and like I said, people smarter than me are going to have to go to the table to work that out
We'll talk.
and put it in put it in layman terms that we all can understand it. But bottom line is, we can tell we're not getting what we're
No,
looking for.
you're getting 4, sometimes 2 per shift. That's what you're getting. But we can't verify that because we're not inside. So we'll talk about that after. So.
But I have professors to tell me that there's no right answer for wrong question. We got to get the questions right. So this helps to get the questions.
We'll talk.
Okay.
right. Thank you guys for that. That's exactly what we're looking for. Got one there, please.
Just to follow up on this question, I guess I'm curious who then is the expert in Stonecrest who is going to lead the effort to rewrite this. This is sounding eerily familiar to me, eerily familiar to the CH2M Jacobs contract, which had no specificity, no accountability measures built in. We should be able to know what response times we're paying for example, and coverage and the like. So there are all sorts of measurable things that should be included in any intergovernmental agreement that we have. So I guess I'm curious, not the finger pointing of who wrote it, but who's going to rewrite it and make sure that it is accurate and useful for us.
We are speaking with the mayor and our legal team to talk about that. And in all likelihood, it will wind up being a consultant based on what we discovered along that line, and an industry professional.
Okay.
Well, one of the problems, and I think he addressed it, is that the Cobb County Police Department is extremely short, as is every police department in the metro area, and in fact, every police department in the United States. In fact, New York PD, which always had a waiting list, is now short, as is LAPD. The only police department that appears to have a full staff is Roswell. And the reason Roswell has a full staff is they jumped their pay up to, I think they started 65,000. But policing is something, because he and I both did it. He did it federal, I did it locally. Policing is something that you cannot put a measurement on because it is so fluid. You know, they have, if they have 50 officers at the East Precinct, which they do not have, then you have to divide that up among 3 by 7, which you have 7 days, and you have to work it out. So the alternative is that you have to have you can't really have an agreement as to how many officers are going to be here because you really don't know. And I'm just going to throw in a little thing. I issued a paper, I think he's familiar with it, for President Obama's task force on 21st century. And my position remains until we get a national police department like the rest of the world has, we will continue to have these shortages because people left the cab to go to Roswell and they were never replaced. And you can't, policing is something you cannot force people to do. So, you know, when you start talking about getting a consultant and getting this and getting that, you can have all the consultants in the world. But if you do not have people who are applying to the police department, you have a problem. That's why so many cities, small cities that don't have police departments, have gone to hiring off-duty police officers because they come with the car, they come with the training, they come with the authority, and they also come with the insurance. Because all you need is to have, and it will happen eventually, Atlanta's had it, all you need is another George Floyd, and you're bankrupt. So before we start talking about getting, and I agree with you, there should be some tightening on the IGA, but you have to do it comparatively to the number of officers that they have. And you have to, technically, you can go get the sheriffs from Rockdale County to come and police in the cab. And that's why you're seeing more and more Rockdale and Henry County police sheriff's deputies working here, because there are not even enough DeKalb police officers to fill the extra jobs. So, this is something that's very complicated that takes, it's not as simple as rewriting the IGA.
Well, my big concern with that is that when you calculate the budget of DeKalb County, you calculate for a certain number of officers.
Mm-hmm.
And then you short that number of officers, which now would mean that we're gonna be shorted.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when DeKalb County is short, the funding for that stays with DeKalb County. What about the funding that should have been used to cover our portion of it? What happens to that? If we're able to realize those funds, then we can do other things in the public safety arena other than hiring police officers. Well, you could consider the contracting for other jurisdictions, but there are other things we can do in the realm of public safety that we could use those funds for if we can claim them. And those are the things we can do.
Thank you both, thank you all. Next question. What specifically are we asking of the DeKalb County Board of Education for in the $1 million of ARPA money that we are giving them? Stonecrest appears to be the only DeKalb city doing this.
I don't have an answer for you there, except to say to you that it was made clearly that the schools, particularly in the southern part of the county, have a shortage of support for our kids, particularly after regular school hours. And there are programs that can be put in place to occupy these kids' time, to help them with a lot of their needs beyond the classroom needs. The DeKalb County school system takes care of kids during school hours,
Can
not
I-
after school.
Can I just intersect? Now, DeKalb County received $313 million, and I was told by one of the Board of Ed members that not all of that money is going to be distributed throughout the 132 schools in DeKalb County. It's going to be based on needs. So I would imagine that a lot of South DeKalb schools should get a lot of that funding. So not everybody, not all the schools are going to get the $313 million funding. It's going to be based on needs, and we have the greatest needs in South DeKalb.
Yes, we do.
Is there another follow-up?
My concern is this. First of all, like you said, you don't know what they're gonna do with the money. Now, I'm gonna be honest. I think everybody knows I'm gonna tell the truth. The DeKalb County Board of Education has a history of, I'm gonna call it misuse of money. Okay, they've had 3 lawsuits going with their superintendent. They paid Mr. Cruz $750,000, and he never even worked for the system. So my concern is, as she has pointed out, they have got $313 million of ARPA money. And we should be, if we're gonna do anything, we should hold their feet to the fire and say, before you get a dime from us, you are going to invest the majority of that $313 million in programs that need to be done. Now, I'm not an educator, I'm a criminologist. So I will tell you this, there is no question about how to educate children from disadvantaged areas. Marva Collins did it in Chicago, Joe Clark did it in New Jersey. So we have a plan. Now, I don't want to see us give them $1 million that we could be giving to 501c3s and other groups that are based in the community. Because he and I worked in wasn't even a 501c3, and we had a woman that was, remember her, she was going out every day after school feeding children from the DeKalb County School. We also created a program, and this is something that the city should look at. We created a program where we took kids in over at, what's the church, Green Pastures. We took children in during spring break. We provided them with breakfast, lunch, and 2 snacks, and kept them until, 5 o'clock. So things are being done in the community. We did not get one dime of money from the Board of Education. They wouldn't even give us the extra lunches they had at the school, so we had to go out and get it. But my thing is, it's like they got $313 million. They can't tell us what they're going to do with it, but then we're going to give them $1 million, which is over 10% of our ARPA money.
Then let us take this case to the DeKalb County School System. I'm not sure if they will allow this type of a dialogue with the board members, but we need to insist upon it, that they hear your concern, and we're listening to your concern. And when y'all make public comments, we hear you. You know, and it might appear that we're not responsive, but believe you me, that dialogue gets into other corners. So,
but are you still going to give them the money? That's what our concern is.
It is still earmarked to go, but it will go through an agency to administer it. So that'd be someone else handling the money as it stands right now. But if you can make a case that it shouldn't go there, you continue to say it.
So let me ask you two.
Ted, I'm sorry, before your hand was up, Daylay's hand.
Okay. Thank you. I feel exactly the same way, and I'll say if our focus is on, I just came from a meeting with my daughter's school, that's why I was a little bit late, milestone prep meeting at Browns Mill, where I was the vice president of the PTA for 2 years and just rolled off of the principal advisory committee for 2 more years. The issue with after school is multiple things. One, when Stonecrest took over Browns Mill Rec Center, we got rid of the after school program. We are the largest city in DeKalb County. All of the schools in here, except maybe Arabian Mountain, are Title I schools. That was the only affordable and the largest capacity affordable aftercare program that existed that has never been replaced. When on the temporary basis that there was a partnership with the YMCA, it was outrageously expensive, it was inconvenient and inaccessible. You had to go there if you wanted to get an affordable rate to ask for a scholarship, which who wants to do that? It was already affordable when it was still with the county. So that has never been replaced. All of that capacity is now lost. The cost to send kids to aftercare at the school is more than twice what it was to send them to aftercare at Browns Mill Recreation Center. So that's one issue. I think again, this is gonna be a theme, I think with me, with accountability and clarity of outcomes. We cannot be giving people money without doing analysis and research first and building in accountability measures to that process. It is putting the cart before the horse to say we've decided to give these people money. We've not done any sort of needs analysis to see, well, let's see if hunger is an issue, which it is, especially since the child tax credit ended that took many of the kids in this area out of hunger. Now that's gone. We've not done anything to demonstrate that we're going to ensure that funds go to that. Children cannot learn when they're hungry. Thank you. And we all know it's a running joke now what eggs cost, right? That was a cheap, healthy way to feed your family and feed yourself. Everybody's suffering in that regard, especially people who already didn't have much to begin with. So I think there's just a lot of just common sense things that we're missing in that process, and things that we in the community, but especially those of us who have kids in the schools, and engage with the schools on a regular basis, could have given input on and can still give input on to ensure that this money is used properly and will actually result in some real change and improvement for our kids.
Okay, let me say this, and that is that we do hear. So what you're saying tonight really needs to be said before the city council. I know you complain about the 2 minutes not being enough time to say.
Or no public comment at all in some of the meetings.
No, not for a regular city council meeting.
Well, I mean.
Okay, but anyway, also, back to Brownsville, we just approved funds to expand that facility for the purpose of putting that after-school program back in place. So that was sorely needed. Of course, I consider we should build another one, but we did approve funds to expand it, and that will come back. I've pushed for that. I know Councilwoman Grimes pushed for that because my kids participated in the after-school program. We know the value of it. And I was at the YMCA a few days ago, just looking at what they have. They got the swim back there, but they have some vacant area there that could be utilized by contract. I asked our director of parks to talk to them and see what might be available with that Y, because the only thing they're using now is a pool, and you got cobwebs growing in the rest of the place. It's crazy.
That's really interesting you said that. And Ted, I'm gonna ask that you hold that, because I know you guys are gonna connect afterwards as well.
This is a school question.
Yes, but I wanna make sure we get more time, and I know we're running out of time. So I wanna go on to
Okay, all right. What's the cutoff time, by the way? What time is it?
7:30.
7:30, okay.
All right, so, let's see here, the Stonecrest. Okay, it says, don't just depend on, no, I'm sorry, I can't read this. I'll come back to it. I'll ask this one while you decipher that. I apologize, I wasn't able to read that. Next question, why are there not regular opportunities to engage with you to discuss ongoing needs and priorities of the citizens? Example, streetlights, code enforcement, potholes, etc.
I used to take a lot of pride in being able to respond to a customer call or complaint within 24 hours. Now I have, and I'll admit it, I have missed some people by weeks. I just talked to Mr. Nelson this morning, and he called me about 3 weeks ago. So many things are going on, and that is no excuse. We need to find a way to improve that such that we are readily accessible to discuss whatever is on your mind relative to the operation Stonecrest. We did bring on board one constituent service person about 2 weeks ago, and her first day on the job will be April 1. So it will take a little while for her to get up to speed, but that will help us to respond to constituent concerns. But continue to call me, and if I don't call you back, call me again. Yell at me. I can take it.
As a follow-up to that, recently, for the mayor's office, I think exclusively for the mayor's benefit, there was a full-time executive assistant hired for the mayor, who's part-time, all y'all part-time, but and then the council does not have someone to support them. So yes, you need to shorten the response time, but who helps y'all? right? So are there any plans to get someone commiserate or for you guys to be able to use some of that person's time since they're full-time?
Like I said, we just brought on the person, she'll start on, I have to interview her. She'll start April 1, and we'll see how much we can get out of that process. And I do agree with you, the staff assistant for the mayor, and the mayor covers all of the city. So we'll see how much service we can get from that office as well. And to call us part-time is,
It's not true.
it's child talk.
Yeah, but again, and that's the other thing, we're a council, city manager-led form of government. If it were an allocation hierarchy, it should be you all, because that's where the seat of decision-making seems to rest, as opposed to with the mayor.
Yeah. Make no mistake about it, the mayor runs a very, very busy calendar. And there are things that are being done that probably would not get done if it was not for what the mayor is doing. Is that the way it's designed? I can't speak to that, except for to say I can't wait for us to get a full-time city manager in place that's dedicated to just the function of the city manager, and that will take part of the load off, because the city manager gets to bring in support staff. And hopefully that can shorten our response time and get a whole lot more done. But I put in hours, and I'm not complaining. I knew what I was signing up for when I signed up. It's 7 days a week with city stuff, and if I'm not actually dealing with it, I'm thinking about it. It occupies so much of my time.
Yeah.
And I'm glad to do what I can while I can, and I love it.
You occupy our time too.
Thank you.
And that's what it's gonna take to make this city successful,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And sometimes it looks like you're complaining and raising hell, but if that's what it takes, bring it on.
Outstanding.
I actually coded this.
Okay.
So I'm gonna go ahead and take a stab at it. So it says, I think the Stonecrest story, don't just see our struggles, but our victories. How do we cultivate, heal, the relationships with the news? No, how do we cultivate healthy relationships with the news media? And how can Stonecrest communities share their success stories? Did I do it?
Yeah, you did.
Outstanding. I'm so sorry, I could not.
Dilly said to me once, the reason you see bad information out there is because you guys don't give us good information. True. So we have brought on several people in the communications department. How many do we have? 3, 4? We've hired additional staff to handle.
This is Mr. Smith, right?
Yeah.
He's the director of communications, I think,
Yeah.
or technology.
To get the good information and get it out in a timely fashion. And you can spread the good news. And he's got to be responsible. We can never let bad news or incorrect news go out because people lose trust. We got to be able to trust that when we put it out, it's accurate. And if we can just continue to do that, and he was invited to come here, it's happening here tonight, and all the other events going on in the city. Spread the good news.
Can I say one thing? Is it, constant contact? Because, like, I always do benchmarking. I look at Brookhaven. It's like they send out emails several times a week. So I would like to see that in Stonecrest. It's very important to over-communicate with good information.
So can I jump in? All right, so for the communications team, we are being more proactive as far as getting the good stories out there because we are a part of the community. When you look at what we did last year, even into this year, we were telling the Stonecrest story. We wanted the information to get out there. We had the mayor on Good Day Atlanta talking about all the good things that was happening in the city. We are developing our even social media channels to let people know what's happening, whether it's through Facebook, whether it's through Instagram, whether it's through Twitter. We want to get the word out, especially the things that our Parks and Rec department is doing. We want to tell the community, hey, if you have families, bring them to Stonecrest. If you have businesses, bring it to Stonecrest. We don't want to be, as Mayor Pro Tem said, just a place where people are passing through. We actually want to become a destination. So we're actually looking for stories that we can tell. So if there's anything that the community wants to share with us and we can help get the word out, we're looking to build those partnerships. From time to time, you will see us, actively out on the weekends or during the weekdays at the events. We're actually actively promoting those. When you talk about things like constant contact, we are building up our communications resources. So that is a part of the resources. We have some other things too that we're working on that should take effect, that will take effect this year. And it's things that the city has not had in the past, but it's a way for us to establish that two-way instant communication. So we're giving you information, but you're also able to give us feedback as well too. I don't want to put it out just yet, but I can let you know that we are building. I guess that's the best way to describe it. We're like Mayor Pro Tem said, we're a young city. Other cities are ahead of us.
Well, Brookhaven is just 4 years ahead of us, and they're so far along.
But we're running a race with them, and we're going to catch up soon with them, and if not only catch up, but to also pass them. So what I say is, things take time, but we are progressing to where you want to be, where we want to be, and where the community feels like we should be.
I want you guys to go faster. That's just my opinion.
We are, but let me say this, and going fast, we don't want to go fast just to run the race. We have to be strategic with our communication.
But you can go faster.
So we can go faster, yes, but we have to be strategic with how we're actually implementing to make sure we are connecting the dots. Because we don't want anybody to get left behind in the messages that we're sharing about something.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted to ask. Piggybacking on what you just said. Are you all being selective about the organizations or the groups or the happenings or the sponsors of the happenings that take place in Stonecrest? Or are you being, are you being selective, I guess is the first question. And if so, why?
So I don't know if that's a question. When you say being selective.
About the organizations that you put information out there that's going on. Case in point, we had a function with the Black Hawk Archive, okay? We sent in the press release, the whole 9 yards, and got no response from the city. And it was a big event because we were partnering with Jack and Jill, one of the chapters around Metro Atlanta. And we had a celebrity there. And Chris Tucker came, and no one from Stone, that was on MLK Day. No one from Stonecrest came, and we sent the press release out.
What about the invitation? What was the invitation?
Well, we sent it through the press release. As a matter of fact, we advertised it on all social media outlets, the whole 9 yards, and no one from Stonecrest came.
Do you know who you sent to number one? But then also
We sent it
at
to
the
the
same time.
communications department.
But
And then we also sent it to on common ground. They did put it out one time, and we piggybacked off of that.
Let me just say that this is what has to become a part of the culture.
Exactly.
And as they continue to do what they're doing, become successful at it, it will be automatic. And I know we're gonna miss some steps as we're going along. But we're gonna get it right as we continue to do it. And like I said, as it becomes part of the culture, it's just automatic. That's what's gonna happen. No, the culture of Stonecrest, that you would expect that whenever you have an event, you will notify communication with Stonecrest. It's just be automatic.
In the meantime, while you're building, right, in the meantime, what's the best way to reach you? And when stories come, are you the decision maker?
when stories come, I am not the decision maker. It's probably a collective decision. But what I will say is when you need to reach out to the city, you can email us at news@stonecrestga.gov. And also too, when you talk about promoting events, we actually have a section on the website that's called Meet Me in Stonecrest. So events, even if we're not able to be a part of it, events are still posted on the city's website that the city is a part of. So when you talk about Martin Luther King Day, I know that that was the same day that the city also had an event, and we were part of the Martin Luther King Day parade.
Right.
And that was a huge event for both of us. I mean, for the city, as well as Stonecrest as well. So any type of promotion we can do for the city, like I said, just reach out to us at the email address, and like I said, we'll look at it. I can reach you. Well,
And before I go to bed each night, I check my email, I check Facebook. That's routine. At some point, it will become routine that I'll check my email, I check Facebook, and I check the city website. Then you will know that that's a place you can go to get any and everything that's happening in Stonecrest. That becomes part of my culture, that I will just make that my routine.
Can I share something real quick? Yes. As a resident and as an employee, I can, support what he's saying. There are some things that's happening behind the scenes to kind of help with engagement and communication and getting our stories out. And, I'm glad you shared your email address so that people can know, but, we're also working together more. I would say one of the main things that we are doing that will be helping us is getting staff in place. Once you get staff in place, some strong staff, some things can kind of help move a little bit faster and work better. And so even with the parks team, with us getting our events coordinator, just expanding our staff, we're able to move some things along quicker, like we sent communications and information for STEM camp, for summer camp. So all of that you should be seeing today or in the morning. For those type of programs that are coming out, as well as like our nature programs. And we've been collaborating with the schools. I can tell you, I have met with many of the principals in the school, seeing where they need support, and even in terms of the city supporting the schools. I see it just for me with the principals, the need. A lot of the schools, just because the CAS have gotten funding, some of the schools are still not receiving that. And so when I walk in there and talk with the principals and the teachers, and just going into Browns Mill gym floor, looking at that, I can see how the city can help support the schools in certain areas, to certain areas as well, because you won't believe that even though they have funding, some funding is not getting to the schools at all. So I do agree, as long as you hold people accountable, put requirements and guidelines in that, it will really be a benefit just from meeting with the principals. But we do have summer camp programs coming out, the staff that we hire for summer camp, and the things that we're preparing for that should roll over into our after-school program. But the main thing has been just trying to get staff on board. You know, we've had a lot of transitions, but I would tell you, working for the department, we will ensure that we have the things that you all are talking about, because I used to go to Browns Mill. So just know that it's a process to some of this, and we're working towards it. We are working towards it, because I used to play basketball at Browns Mill. I went to Browns Mill Elementary. So we are going to establish those things back in the community that we haven't had.
And then I just want to add.
Actually, Mr. Smith, please.
Yes.
Because my timekeeper just said we got like 7 more minutes. And that's her question,
We're gonna do
so I
those
want
two
to make
questions
sure
now.
we do that.
But we very much appreciate
Councilwoman
the
Grimes
dialogue.
said she got to
She
say
said
it
she
right
got
now.
to say
Okay.
it, okay.
So please.
I don't have a choice, otherwise I wouldn't be who you know me to be. I'm gonna say this, and I want you to be very clear, that as one who's been in Stonecrest City Schools before they were Stonecrest City Schools, I started in 1995. I only worked in 2 schools in 28 years. And for most of you, you know where I'm located during the day. What I will tell you, not only about where I am during the day, there's something that's called earmarking. And just because the school gets $313 million does not mean that it is most impactful to our black and brown kids. I am on the inside, and what the pandemic has caused, many of you don't see. The money we're talking about giving and putting an MOU in place with the school system, it's for those things that Title I will not pay for. It's for those things that the pandemic has caused that our children need yesterday. Mental health, mental issues. If I could write it, it would only be used for that, because 2 things I'll tell you that I know to be true. Nobody checked on teachers during the pandemic. You don't know if a teacher stayed at school till 7 p.m. because she was 1, afraid to go home, 2, did not have hotspots or Wi-Fi, didn't have computers or printers at our house. Teachers didn't get that. Students got lots of things. I'm telling you what I know because I am one. Second thing, the mental issues that our kids have right now, you would be afraid to be in a building with me for 6 hours, even with all your police training, you would shake your head. You would have some handcuffs, because what is in a document that's called an IEP that was there before the pandemic has now been heightened, and things that kids were protected from with the IEP, those same behaviors cause me to shudder some days going to work. And I'm a grown woman. Because if I protect myself in many instances, then Golden is coming for me, Cofield is coming for me, because I defended myself. Let yourselves have a different mindset about the money that we want to share with the schools that are in our district, because on the other side of town, they're taking care of their own. And I am making an appeal to every constituent. Please get behind us. Accountability does not have to be aggressive. Please understand that what we want to do is what we need to do, so we don't have to call that public safety that we don't have, who may be late because they ain't in the cab. Y'all, we got some real issues with our children. Our boys who look like men. Andrew, there are guys in my school who are your size. It ain't a doggone thing I can do with them when they have that issue that comes upon them. I'm a female, and I don't care how bad I think I am. I can't handle them. Just today I had to attempt to break up a fight.
Wow.
Y'all, I promise you, I just wanted to come. I want you to come out to the school. I know we have a conversation going. I want you to come and see.
This needs to continue.
I want to say
I want you to come and see.
it does, that's very valuable, that's a very valuable contribution, and we need to hear from teachers in there. I want to say this, from what we understand from community around the issue of the funds, and I know we need to wrap up and do some things, and we got 2 more questions, but this, everybody thinks what they got to say is important, and I don't want to
It is.
put my thing, but here's the thing. What is significantly lacking, one of the things, in our city is this 2-way dialogue. You cannot get all of this in one public comment period, one time a month. That's limited to 2 minutes. You cannot. So if you don't host the town hall meetings, and you don't have the coffee with your council person, and you don't have an email, and you're not able to get back to people for 3 weeks, or you don't call people back, or you don't text people back, or you don't email people back, and you don't respond to emails, then you're not going to get this. And we're not going to understand your passionate need at Salem, because I think
And it's just not us.
right.
Right,
It's
that's
in our
schools.
schools. And if community members who are stewards, because we've got assets in this community, tremendous wisdom and capability and capacity in our community. So we did not elect people to say, you're too stupid to know how to do things. So you've elected me to think for you and do for you and all that kind of stuff. That's not what happened in this community. Not from any conversation that I've had with any member of community have I ever been impressed that someone has no sense. None. So if you say we need $1.2 million for the schools, this is the first time I'm hearing about all those things. We like documentation. Put it in a paper. When we go and get contracts in our individual homes, I'm not going to let someone come in and tell me, well, if I have an issue with the car, this is what you need to do.
Right.
This is going to cost $1,500. What's going to cost $1,500? How many parts do you need? How much time is going to take? What part is labor? What's part? We have those expectations in our individual lives. We have those expectations from you all, from our elected officials. So if you tell us what you want to do, then also explain to us why. We are not children. You are not our parents. So this is not the kind of relationship we have. Fiduciary relationship is what we have. Not parental, not charges. You're not our guardians. That's not what this is. You're our partners in creating a city that we can all be proud of. right? That's what it is. So if you say we need $1.2 million, write it up. We wanna see the vision, we wanna see the measurements, we wanna see how you're gonna spend it, where you're gonna spend it, how you know it's gonna go to those things. And we wanna know that it's not gonna be misappropriated, because nobody in here is under any impression that funds don't go missing. We know they go missing. It happened in our city. The funds are missing, right? And we may not be able to get all of them back. So that's already happened here. What we're asking for is y'all go over and above to make sure everybody feels comfortable. And don't dismiss the concerns of community members by saying, we got it. We don't need you. We got it. We know what we're doing. Y'all don't know it all. If we don't know it all, then tell us what we don't know.
Right.
That has to be done. Tell us what we don't know. So I know we got 2 more questions, then we're gonna get out of here.
But please, these conversations need to continue, so, next, right, is what we'll be talking about as we make our way to the cars.
Yes.
Thank you so much for allowing us to come in here. We really appreciate you guys. Okay, 2 questions and we'll move forward. IDI Logistics will bring 2,000 heavy-duty vehicles and 1,000 cars to this community. Why would Stonecrest approve such a dangerous project?
I want to go back to the answer that I gave earlier when it comes to deciding where you want to live, what you want to have in the community. If you have progress, you're going to have to look at bringing in industry, additional commerce, and with that comes traffic. Some of it's going to be light traffic, some of it's going to be heavy traffic. I don't think there are any statistics to show that this is dangerous to the point that it exceeds other municipalities of the size of Stonecrest. But we are willing to listen, and if we need to do additional things such as road improvements, tax the parties that are there to support it, then we will consider that. At least I will. IDI, the warehouse, and to expect that you have traffic going in and out all day long, I don't personally see it. Although I know that there will be some, but to the point that it endangers our health, that is not what we're about. And if there's evidence of that, then we need to take action, but I don't foresee it. I really don't.
I would just like to say that there are statistics. EPA has a environmental justice mapping tool. This community is at risk for diesel emissions right now. So we sent in a 19-page document that probably was ignored, but we can resend it. To add 3,000 vehicles, 2,000 heavy-duty vehicles that don't have emission control devices on them is going to not only cause a lot of congestion, the pollution is already high. But I can get you some documentation and resend the rest.
Yeah. But I think that can be said for any location where you have congestion or growth, be it commercial or be it residential. This area is probably at risk from the number of automobiles and school buses and garbage trucks that come through here.
Transfer truck.
Yeah, and but the question is what's necessary and what do we get as a result of assuming a certain amount of risk. There's always some risk, but what is unreasonable? So yes, essentially.
Yeah, we assume a lot of risk in this area, but you're not going to get the same risk in Buckhead. Right. They're not going to accept 3,000 more vehicles in Buckhead, not 2,000 heavy-duty trucks. They do that to our community because they're allowed to do it. So my thing is, if you want additional documentation, I'll get it for you. I will.
Our last question.
Last question. No, you sure?
No.
Okay, all right. And this is timely because this relates to the whole idea of planning and determining where our destiny is based on our planning process. Has Kedra Jackson been terminated? Those of you who don't know, Kedra Jackson was second in command of our planning department in the city of Stonecrest. So has Kedra Jackson been terminated? And then what was the reason for her termination?
You're asking a personnel question, and we're gonna address it. Let me deal with what you said earlier about lack of communication. And I will not blame the pandemic for a lack of some of the town halls that we could have had virtually as well. But it's on us, it's on you as well. So I'm glad you had this dialogue this evening, and we cannot undo what we missed, but I'm willing to sponsor more town hall meetings now that the pandemic's not over, but we have places that we can have those dialogues, and we do need to hear from you. Whether we agree with you or not, we need to hear from you. And I realize we are your servants. That's what we signed up for. And we have to hear what you have to say. But we're going to hear different opinions, and we have to make a decision in the end. And we should give an explanation as to why we chose the direction we did choose. So I am a 100% agreement with you that we need to have more dialogue. And it doesn't always take me 3 weeks to get back to Somebody else on the spot. But there's just so many. And I'm glad to have that communication, but I need help, and we're getting help, and we can catch up.
Okay. I wanna say this because our secretary is near me, I know, because she's like, it's time. So we gotta transition, but here's what I wanna say. Everyone on their chair had a packet. I really ask that you take a look at the packet. This is my spiel, right? It's time for my spiel as president of the Stonecrest Citizens Coalition. So there's a packet here. You can find out more about us. Our principles are here. Our annual priorities are here. Our policy platform is here. I'm definitely encouraging our city council members to review this information, to take it back with you and give it to the council members who were not able to attend, and the mayor as well, to learn a little bit more about what it is we're looking to see happen in Stonecrest and how we can help. I hope that the city council, it's tough to find a space. Stonecrest doesn't have its own, or the SEC doesn't have its own home right now. So if the city is willing and you want to have more opportunities to hear from community, we'd love for you all to offer us your space sometimes to hold our community conversations. If you're not having people in the space where you hold your community meetings, we'd love to be there. If you have another area in the city, city hall that we could host our space, we'd love to have access to that as well. It is a burden on us to have to pay for these spaces, to have to find those spaces. If you are serious about community engagement, about supporting community members, about two-way dialogue, then you can certainly show us your sincerity through extending us that space. So I want to say that at this time, you guys go ahead and get together. Thank you for coming out. Please, we're just going to be working around you. We want to honor Rockland Road UMC. Thank you everyone for coming.